Hey, I'm here to talk about father figuring and autoethnography of fatherhood. And yes, I did have to read that from the paper because I do forget to read the titles of these things sometimes. But it's by SF Anonymous. And first of all, I want to start by reading an excerpt from the abstract. Basically saying, I explore the contradictions, tensions, and embodied disconnections, dis in parentheses, connections between three generations of boys and men in my family. And so first off, he goes into a very first off the generalization of this essay is that he's talking about how fatherhood varies from uh, generation to generation. How he feels that his how his dad's raising affected him, and how he really wants to break the cycle and really understand his father, and how. And also, I really love the way he interrupts kind of the flow, I guess, of the autoethnography and interjects like kind of like a miniature footnote in a degree. I think I marked a couple of stuff in here. One big thing he talks about, and if I can find the page for it, I believe it is on page um on page 12. He talks about a particular thing haunting, and he really does talk about this quite a bit more than the other subjects he talks about. Kind of talks about how that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, how his father how his the teachings kind of haunted him, and how regrets kind of drove a lot of his decision, how he just really didn't want to be like his dad, um per se. But maybe overreading that or something. But another thing that I also read that really helped me, and I'm going to read it again, it's page 12. This helped me to realize that I needed to see past in the moments of beauty in my relationship with younger son, the moments of pain in my relationship with dad, and the moments of confusion in my relationship with older son. So it's really interesting. And plus, I love the fact he never really refers to like the names. He just kind of gives them. I feel like that generalization of like younger son, older son just makes it a little more relatable per se. But I really love does how he really does tackle a lot of masculinity, and it's really kind of true how like I know between me and my dad, we don't really we don't really hug. We don't really I mean, we say I love you occasionally, but just that overall feeling of kind of just sitting there, it's like, oh, we're bros. It's kind of like a mutual thing. It is okay to express emotion, and then sit there, and it's like, and I also love how he challenges like this idea of like that you have to be in charge. That like the controversy between sometimes the way we guys treat our future generations. Um, I think another one that I think another extra that I want to read, also still on page 12, is perhaps I come to know my father in a new way, honoring him for who he is rather than who I expect him to be. Instead of that's really rang to me because it's like instead of setting up this idea of instead of like sitting there and like wanting to be a certain type of person, kind of take it as is and take it for the way he is. Because a lot of the interjection that he makes is like he's like, dude, this is what he's trying to do, and like the interjection from his future self to his past self, it's really interesting and kind of an enlightening way he went about doing it, which I thought was a really cool way of utilizing autoethnography. But overall, it was a fantastic piece. Really rang to me personally as a heterosexual male gentleman myself. Uh, it's it's hard to deal with masculinity. I feel like in modern day and age, just because we're too scared to sit there and let our guard down, and just this, it's just crazy. I mean, personally, what I would like to get more out of this, and my guess my question would be, like, what other ways does masculinity prevent us from being potentially, not, I don't want to say we're bad people, but like better, kind of breaking this threshold of this stereotypical that like men have to be like full blown masculine, like what defines masculinity. And he does harp on this a little bit, but I just something that really just rings true to me a little bit. But again, the piece just really tackles the era of fatherhood pretty well. It's just like what ultimately drives us as fathers. What how deeply our own. They always say, like, the way your parents raise you is the way you're going to raise your kids. And it's just so much more true because the whole haunting thing, I mean, I think another thing he talks about, if I can find it, clunky intimacy. That's a really funny way of kind of putting what I was talking about earlier. Just not really, not really wanting to showing emotion in our own kind of strange way, kind of being accepting and understanding of that too. There was one more thing. Unfortunately, I really don't think I have the time to find it, but overall, the piece was fantastic. I really did enjoy it, and like I said, I just want to really know what other ways masculinity really hinders uh, heterosexual gentlemen and just gentlemen in general. It doesn't have to be heterosexual, homosexual, because I know homosexuals probably deal with that just as badly as we do. But that's honestly all I have to talk about. So